So many of you are familiar with how I love to grow peppers and little small chilies in containers. I use just a small 3-gallon plastic container. It has a patented design. So I like to put a little water bin underneath my containers so that if it is dry in the summer, my plants can take up the water that they need. And I find that this has just worked so wonderfully for me over the past several years. And last year I actually experimented with growing cucumbers in the containers using the same method, and I had wonderful success doing that too. So this year I wanted to go ahead and get a few more bins because I'm going to grow cucumbers the same way, but this year I'll probably trellis them so that they'll grow nice and straight. So I did order some more containers, and I wanted to make some available for subscribers who would also like to use the same kind of containers. I'll leave a link below the video to where I went into a little bit of depth last year. I ordered some extra containers. I've been using the same ones, the rusted orange look, for about I would say probably 5 years now, and they've held up great for me. I use them about 3 seasons out of the years for growing tomatoes too, but I mostly grow peppers, and now I'll be growing a lot of cucumbers. They have, like I said, held up very well for me. I live in zone 6B. The patented design on these containers have really nice drainage holes. They go up the side so that air can reach the root system. Plant roots do like to have some air get to them. Also, as I mentioned, they don't dry out. I have tried terracotta clay pots before and they dried out on me. I've tried fabric pots, they dried out on me. I actually feel like I don't use as much water with these containers and the bins as I did with other pots that I've used. You'll also notice that it is raised in the center, and on the raised part there are also drainage holes. So you don't ever really want your roots sitting in water for an extended period of time because it could cause root rot. So I do like that little bit of added protection. Now when I grow my peppers, I use a little cage and I'll turn it upside down, and that will help support my peppers for some of the larger ones that I grow this way. And I turn over the top of the cages so that when I'm tending to my plants, I won't poke my eye out. So that's pretty important to do that. So I want to give you a few tips on growing some summer vegetables this way. As I mentioned, I live in zone 6B, and our summers are not terribly hot. We probably get to about 92, 95 on a really hot day. So it's really important for me to make sure I put my containers in a warm area, and I found that putting them on concrete works best because it helps retain that warmth, and also it's dark, like a dark gray. So if you have an area where you could put your bins, I would think a concrete area would be good, along with maybe a black tarp or a black bag underneath it, which will help absorb some of that sun instead of reflecting it. Another point to consider is to make sure your plants are consistently watered, and so I'm checking on my bins almost every day when it's really hot. If it's hot and dry outside, I'll add a little bit of water to the bins. I usually fill them about 1/3 of the way full in the morning. Now if we've had a lot of rain, as I mentioned before, you don't want your plants just sitting in water all day. If they're not taking up water, that's usually a sign to me that either we did have a really hard rain, so I want to make sure to empty that bin, or there's something wrong with the plant. The plant's going through some kind of shock, like maybe it has an insect infestation, and that way it's not taking up the water. So that is something you'll want to make sure to kind of keep an eye on. And then the third tip I'd like to go over is you need to make sure you're fertilizing your plants. And so about every 7 to 10 days, I'll use a water-soluble fertilizer. When they're very young, like at this stage, I just water from the top with an all-purpose fertilizer. Today, you can get water-soluble fertilizers that are organic or just the synthetic, like Miracle-Gro. As your plants start to mature, you might notice that they want to start blooming. At this time, you'll want to go ahead and start feeding them again with a water-soluble fertilizer that is specifically designed for vegetables. This will encourage blooming, and so that way you will have a lot of wonderful vegetables. So I have set aside some extra sets of containers, and I find that it's easiest to ship these 5 pots and 5 bins in one box. I get my bins at Dollar Tree. They're $1 each. They're not the highest quality, so if you don't want those, maybe you have somewhere you can get a much higher quality bin to put underneath your containers. You can just deduct $5 for those, because I'm just picking the bins up as a little convenience. So if you're interested in these, just send me over an email at rainbowgardens@charter.net, and I will get these out to you. Thanks so much for watching. Y'all have a beautiful day. Bye.